Hello, my name is Brian Wood. I'm the creator of the Supernatural English Study Method. The Supernatural English Study Method is a unique and powerful way to not only learn, but master the English language. Over the last 6 years teaching English in China, I have met countless students whom have committed years of diligent study to the English language. Even with daily study discipline and a genuine desire to accomplish their goals, they are still not confident in their ability to speak English effectively. My students look to me, their teacher, for the answer to, how do I learn to speak English as well as you? After more than 5 years and hundreds of hours of research, I can confidently promise you, my student, that if you follow this course, I will teach you to speak English as well, if not better, than so-called native speakers. I am choosing not to reveal how the method works for fear it will lead to overthinking on the part of the student. Instead, we begin this journey with a teacher-student understanding. I'm the teacher. All the responsibility of your learning falls on me. You're my student. You are committed to this course and will follow the instructions completely and carefully. If you do, I promise you won't be disappointed. Now there is nothing more to say other than, let's get started. Hand is ranked the 238th most used word in English. Here at wordcount.org, we will take a look at hand. And there you have it. Hand is the 238th most used word in the English language.
Hand.
Hand.
Hand, hand, hand.
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 Hand, hand, hand.
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 Hand, hand, hand. Look at your hand. The back of the hand. To know something or somewhere like the back of your hand is to know something very well. I grew up in this city. I know it like the back of my hand. Forehand, backhand. In what way you hit a ball. To backhand somebody. To hit someone's face with the back of your hand. Backhanded compliment. What might at first sound like a compliment, but could or should really be taken as an insult when considered in its entirety. Sometimes one hand is not enough. Use two hands. Use both hands. Use both hands to catch the football. Hands are dirty. Hands are clean. To have dirty hands can also mean that you have done something evil or wrong that may embarrass or dishonor yourself. I don't want to dirty my hands by taking part in this revenge plot of yours. Dirty, filthy hands. Scrub your hands with soap and water. Wash your hands. Dinner time, Mom yelled up the stairs. Don't forget to wash your hands. Which hand do you favor? The right hand or the left hand? The hand you use to write, throw a ball, play ball, pool, etc. If you favor the left hand, you are left-handed. I'm left-handed. I'm a southpaw, you would say. If you favor your right hand, then you are right-handed. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Take a right or left or turn right or left. When giving directions, you can tell someone which way to go by saying go right or go left. This is called a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn. Turn right, take a right-hand turn. Turn left, take a left-hand turn. Hand signals let cars behind you know which direction you intend to go. Talk with your hands. When you are speaking, making hand movements called gestures helps the listener to follow what you are saying. Shake hands. The handshake.
And handshakes is the worst. There's absolutely no guidelines for handshakes. You don't need people too strong, too weak. Sometimes they give you the three-quarter handshake, just the fingers. Early release, late release. Sometimes people will dispute your release. You've let go, they're hanging on. I have actually said to people, hey, the handshake is over. Too many pumps, coming in too high, too sweaty from too far away. Sometimes a guy will give you a strong grip, late release, and pull you in for the too close conversation. To him, I say, that's 3 strikes, you're out.
Hold my hand. Take my hand. Holding hands. Walking hand in hand. Hand something. Handheld. Things that you use with your hands. Hand mirror. Handheld mirror. Hand crank. Hand cranked. Hand saw. Handheld tool with a handle. Hand fan. More things with hand in their name. Things that you use with your hands. Hand sanitizer. Hand towel. Hand grenade. Hand tools. Handkerchief. Blow my nose. Hand axe. Hand axe. Handbell. Handbag. Hand pump. Hand cream. Hand basket. Hand shovel. Hand dryer. Hand mower. Hand throttle. Hand brake. Hand rail. Hand truck. Go hand in hand. 2 things that are closely related or go together well. You can't have one without the other. Stress and raising a child go hand in hand. Handwriting. How you write is your handwriting. Beautiful handwriting? This is cursive. Sloppy handwriting. Doctors' sloppy handwriting kills more than 7,000 people annually. Many doctors have sloppy handwriting. Shorthand. A system of writing that shortens the time it takes to write letters and words in order to write at a very fast speed. Shorthand is English but written differently. Short-handed. To not have enough people to do something. Many of the staff are out sick, so we are a bit short-handed this week. Put your hands up. Handgun. Put your hands behind your head. He is being held at gunpoint. Handcuffs. To handcuff someone. Sleight of hand. The art of diverting someone's attention to one hand while doing something with the other. Magicians are masters of sleight of hand, and this is the basis of many magic tricks. Pickpockets, or thieves, also often use this technique to lift valuable belongings from unsuspecting people. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know the answer. By a show of hands, who wants to go? Raise your right hand. When President Obama was sworn in, he was asked to raise his right hand. His left hand is placed on the Holy Bible. Before testifying in a court of law in America, you must be sworn in. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brian Eugene Wood, promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. This is a solemn oath to God. I didn't forget to feed your cat. Right hand to God. In other words, I am not lying. At the right or left hand. Where something or someone is positioned. Jesus is now seated at God's right hand in heaven. Hebrews 1:3 from the Bible. Right hand man. Someone you trust that is always there to help you. The person you can most rely on. Hold your hand out. Hold out your hand. A handout. Something given freely to someone or everyone. A piece of paper used in teaching a lesson or presenting information. Volunteers handed out food boxes to the poor on Saturday. A handout about China. I'm not looking for a handout. I will pay the money back. Cup your hands. Teacup. Handle. Hold out your hands. Cupped hands. A handful of. A handful of something is not a little, but not a lot of something. A handful of blueberries. A handful of love is better than an oven full of bread. In Bengali proverb. Love is so very valuable even in small amounts. A handful of patience is worth more than a bushel of brains. A Dutch proverb. My hands are full. I don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest. With 3 kids, I have my hands full. If your hands are full, you have no time for other things. Or it could simply just mean that your hands are full and that you cannot carry any more. Hand-me-downs. Clothes that are passed on to you by your older siblings, your brothers and sisters, when they outgrow them. Hand down. Hand down. This old house has been in the family for many generations. It was handed down to me by my father. Second hand. Not the first to own or have something. Second hand smoke. Second hand shop. I bought this bike second hand, not new, from the second hand shop. Beforehand. To do something in advance or early in preparation for something. When you travel, it's always best to book your hotel beforehand to be sure when you get there you won't have any trouble finding a room. Hand, the unit of measurement. A hand is a measurement of 4 inches that is used to measure the height of a horse. How tall is your horse? 10H or 10 hands. Handle. Many items have a part that are used for the purpose of holding with the hand. Door handle. Toilet handle. Mug handle. Screwdriver handle. Car door handle. Handlebars. Handlebar mustache. Pan handle. The handle of a pan. The Florida panhandle. Panhandle the verb. Asking for money from people walking around the city is panhandling. Can you spare any change, please? Keep the change. Don't support panhandling. Give to a local charity, the sign says. Handle. To handle something is to take care or do something as responsibility. Also, I can handle something meaning I have the ability, the skill to do something. I will handle the wedding invitations. You order the flowers. Can't handle. Cannot deal with something or someone emotionally or physically. Cannot cope with it.
Of Colonel. You snotty little bastard.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
I'd like an answer to the question, Judge.
The court will wait for an answer.
If Lieutenant Kendrick gave an order that Santiago wasn't to be touched, then why did he have to be transferred? Colonel, Lieutenant Kendrick ordered the code red, didn't he? Because that's what you told Lieutenant Kendrick to do.
Object!
And when it went bad, you cut these guys loose!
Your Honor!
You had
Counsel, I'll
Marcus
hold you
inside
in
a phony
contempt.
transfer!
Your Honor!
You doctored the logbook!
Damn it, Captain!
You coerced the doctor!
Consider yourself in contempt.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have...
Clap your hands. When you clap your hands, you show your approval and appreciation to someone. Isn't she great, folks? Let's give Lucy a big hand. Great dancing, Lucy. Curtsy for girls. Bow for boys. Also applause. Give them a round of applause. Give them a hand. Bare hands. Nothing in your hands. Fighting with your bare hands means without a weapon. With bare hands also means to do something without protecting your hands or wearing gloves. Bare-handed catch. Alex is a real beast of a fighter. He has fought bears with his bare hands and won. Hand-to-hand combat. Fighting without the use of a weapon. Heavy-handed. To have the ability to throw a powerful punch that will likely knock out your opponent. Put your hands up means let's fight. As a king or dictator, to rule with a heavy hand is to oppress your people. Handy. To be good at something, to be skillful. A handy man is a man that is good with building, fixing, and repairing things around the house. He knows how to fix just about anything. He is a handy man to have around the house. I'm not handy in the kitchen. My wife does all the cooking. Have something handy. To keep something close and easy to get in case you need it. I will give you my number. Do you have a pen handy? You should keep a first aid kit handy in case of emergencies. Might come in handy. To hold on, keep something that you have no use for now, but later you may need it. Hands of a clock. The standard wall clock has 3 hands. The hour hand, the minute hand, and the second hand. Give me a hand with. Lend me a hand. When you need help with carrying or moving something, or when you have a project or a situation you need assistance with. Give me a hand with this couch, please. I'm moving on Saturday. Do you mind lending me a hand with loading and unloading the truck? When moving, it is always nice to have an extra pair of hands to help you with all the packing, cleaning, and moving of your things. The game of team handball. A sport played similarly to football, only with using your hands instead of your feet. Men's handball, women's handball. Handball the game and handball the ball. Handstand. Do a handstand. Handspring. Spring. A steady hand. To have the ability to keep one's hands still. My hands are shaking. Can't hold my hands or still without moving them, normally because of nervousness or illness. A surgeon. A sniper. Surgeons and snipers must have a steady hand to do their job. So, do your hands shake? Hand in. To give someone something such as a form, report, homework assignment, etc., that needs to be checked, saved, or otherwise kept. Students, please hand in your homework on Friday. Have a hand in something. To be partly involved with something, usually an important decision or project. I know who the robbers are, but I did not have a hand in the robbery. In other words, I was not involved. To be partly responsible for the outcome of a situation. I don't know why she quit. I had no hand in it. She didn't quit because of anything I did or said. Force someone's hand. To make someone do something that they do not want to do. Listen, Rick, I didn't want to fire you, but because you told my boss about the mistake you made, you have forced my hand. Handprint. A print or copy of the hand made on a surface. Handprint art. Handprint. Please don't put your hand on the glass. You will leave handprints. Bloody handprint. By hand. To do something using your hands instead of a machine. Sanding by hand. Hand sanding. Hand sanded. Painting by hand. Hand painted. Washing clothes by hand. Sewing by hand. Hand sewn clothes. Handmade or handcrafted. A product made with the use of the hand and the hands and not with machines. This is a cute homemade gift, they say. Hand knitted. Handmade birthday card. Handmade bags. Handmade jewelry. Get a handhold. When climbing up something such as a wall or mountain cliff, you need to find the next handhold above you to pull your body up. When free climbing a rock face, always make sure to be completely confident in every handhold you choose. One mistake and it's all over. Hand. Have a nice day. HAND is an acronym for the phrase, have a nice day. This shortcut can be used when texting and is considered texting language. A hand of cards. The cards you hold in your hand when playing a game of cards is called your hand. I don't have much time, but I'll play a hand or two. Show me your hand. Wow, nice. That's a good hand. The dead man's hand, aces and eights, is an unlucky hand in poker. Show your hand, figurative. To reveal your plans unintentionally, giving your opponent an unfair advantage. Play the hand you're dealt, another figurative term. When something happens in life you have no control over, you have no choice but to do the best you can with what life gives you. Living hand to mouth. When you are poor and work only to take care of your basic needs, such as food and shelter, you are said to be living hand to mouth. More than 80% of humanity lives on less than $10 a day, and therefore 8 out of 10 people live hand to mouth. Have the upper hand. To have an advantage over someone. Gain the upper hand. To gain an advantage over someone. Because I have more experience than the other applicants, I have the upper hand. Hand delivered. When you have delivered something such as a package by giving it directly to the person or in place or instead of using a carrier service or the post, you have hand delivered it. A hand-delivered resume can give you the upper hand when applying for a job. Hand over something. A strong demand that someone give you something. You have had too much to drink. You are too drunk to drive. Hand over your keys. Hand-picked. To carefully pick or choose one or a few items from a large group of similar items, to choose the best among many. Hand-picked wines. Hand-picked for you. Hand-picked. I had hand-picked these beautiful apples for you. This team of 5 great people was hand-picked from over 1,000 employees. Hand-eye coordination. Whether you drop or catch a ball thrown at you is determined by your hand-eye coordination, the ability to see something and then react to it by using your hands. Juggling requires strong hand-eye coordination. Studies show that people who regularly play video games have stronger hand-eye coordination than those that don't. Fall into the wrong hands. When something dangerous is obtained by someone with evil intentions. If the weapon falls into the wrong hands, many innocent people will die. If that document falls into the wrong hands, we will all be in trouble. Handbook. The handbook is the book that contains all information you may need to know about an organization that you are a part of, or a complete instructional book on how to do something. Employee handbook, student handbook. The Science Club handbook. Boy Scouts of America, the official handbook. I'm not sure what the procedure is for requesting time off. I will have to check the handbook and get back to you. Hand off. The act of giving someone something hand to hand at close proximity. In sports such as a relay race, the handoff is when the baton is passed to the next runner. American football and basketball also have handoffs. Hand off the verb. He handed off his work to his assistant and went to the bar for a drink. Getting out of hand. When a situation is getting steadily worse and something needs to be done about it. This paperwork is getting out of hand. Talk to the hand. A strong and very rude way to say, I don't want to hear what you are saying and I am not going to listen. Hand signals. A hand signal is used to say something non-verbally by making a gesture with your hands or hands, hand or hands. Military combat hand signals. Directing traffic hand signals. Hands are tied, figuratively. When you are unable to do something for someone because you do not have the power to do so, or would result in unacceptable harm to yourself. His hands are literally tied in this picture. I'm sorry, but the bank has denied your loan due to bad credit. I wish there was something I could do to help, but my hands are tied. An old hand at. Someone who has been doing something for a long time. He is an old hand at farming. He has been farming for 40 years. Farmhand. Someone whose job is to work on the farm. Also, stagehand, works on the stage. Deckhand, works on the deck. Mill hand, field hand. Hired hand. Someone hired to do manual labor or household chores. You're in good hands. The people you will be staying with are trustworthy and will take good care of you. I'm a little bit nervous about moving in with my uncle in Mexico for the winter, but my mom says I will be in good hands. I have to hand it to you. Have to hand it to you. When you have to say someone did a good job even though you don't want to, or when you have to admit you are wrong about someone's ability to do a good job. When you said you were going to build a treehouse, I thought it would be a disaster, but I have to hand it to you. It looks great. On the one hand, something. On the other hand, something. You're considering the good and bad of something and trying to decide the best course of action. Should I take a vacation? On the one hand, my boss will not be happy I'm taking time off during the busy season. But on the other hand, if I don't go now, I may never be able to go. Hand me something. To pass an object by request to somebody, putting said object into the other's hand. Hey Mike, hand me up some more nails, please. Thanks, Mike. Hand me a 9/16 wrench, please. Here you are. Hands off. A strong way to say not to touch, take, or change something or someone. Keep your hands off. Caution. Keep hands off. Hands off Social Security. Don't touch it. Hands off the bump. Hands off my stuff. Hands off my tools. Hands off my phone. Keep your hands off my computer or you will die. Hands off. I'm watching you. Can't keep their hands off each other. Lovers who show physical affection for each other are very often used to explain the intense love between two people. Did you have fun at the party, Bob? Not really. Cindy and Barry spent the whole night making out. Those two can't keep their hands off each other. Hands on. To not only lead, but to do the work as well. I run a highly successful handyman service with over 50 employees, but I still take house calls. Guess you could say I'm a hands-on kind of boss. Caught with my hand in the cookie jar. I was caught or seen breaking the rules or law while in the act of doing it. I was stealing money from my mom's purse when she came into the room and saw me. I was caught with my hand in the cookie jar. Also, caught red-handed means the same thing. You just watched Lesson 1 of the Supernatural English Study Method. Support us on Patreon. New lessons in the method are posted every week on Thursday night, China time. Gain access to this powerful study method by visiting www.patreon.com/teacherbrian. Follow the link in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. See you next time. Bye-bye. Do daily 10 minutes listening and reading to train your speech. Professional writer plus professional reader equals how to speak English perfectly. The Supernatural English Study Method. Do not try to understand what you are hearing. Listen to how the words are pronounced. Listen to how the sentence is said. Notice the speed of speech. Listen for pauses between words and sentences. Listen for stress of words and phrases. Again, do not try to understand. Just listen. Don't think.
Chapter 1. Billy Ray Cobb was the younger and smaller of the two rednecks. At 23, he was already a 3-year veteran of the state penitentiary at Parchman. Possession with intent to sell. He was a lean, tough little punk who had survived prison by somehow maintaining a ready supply of drugs that he sold and sometimes gave to the blacks and the guards for protection. In the years since his release, he had continued to prosper, and his small-time narcotics business had elevated him to the position of one of the more affluent rednecks in Ford County. He was a businessman, with employees, obligations, deals, everything but taxes. Down at the Ford place in Clanton, he was known as the last man in recent history to pay cash for a new pickup truck. $16,000 cash for a custom-built, four-wheel drive, canary yellow luxury Ford pickup. The fancy chrome wheels and mud-grip racing tires had been received in a business deal. The rebel flag hanging across the rear window had been stolen by Cobb from a drunken fraternity boy in an old Miss football game. The pickup was Billy Ray's most prized possession. He sat on the tailgate drinking a beer, smoking a joint, watching his friend Willard take his turn with the black girl. Willard was 4 years older and a dozen years slower. He was generally a harmless sort who had never been in serious trouble and had never been seriously employed. Maybe an occasional fight with a night in jail, but nothing that would distinguish him. He called himself a pulpwood cutter, but a bad back customarily kept him out of the woods. He had hurt his back working on an offshore rig somewhere in the Gulf, and the oil company paid him a nice settlement, which he lost when his ex-wife cleaned him out. His primary vocation was that of a part-time employee of Billy Ray Cobb, who didn't pay much but was liberal with his dope. For the first time in years, Willard could always get his hands on something, and he always needed something. He'd been that way since he hurt his back. She was 10, and small for her age. She lay on her elbows, which were stuck and bound together with yellow nylon rope. Her legs were spread grotesquely, with the right foot tied tight to an oak sapling and the left to a rotting leaning post of a long-neglected fence. The ski rope had cut into her ankles, and the blood ran down her legs. Her face was bloody and swollen, with one eye bulging and closed, and the other eye half open, so she could see the other white man sitting on the truck. She did not look at the man on top of her. He was breathing hard and sweating and cursing. He was hurting her. When he finished, he slapped her and laughed, and the other man laughed in return. Then they laughed harder and rolled around the grass by the truck like two crazy men, screaming and laughing. She turned away from them and cried softly, careful to keep herself quiet. She had been slapped earlier for crying and screaming. They promised to kill her if she didn't keep quiet. They grew tired of laughing and pulled themselves onto the tailgate, where Willard cleaned himself with the little nigger's shirt, which by now was soaked with blood and sweat. Cobb handed him a cold beer from the cooler and commented on the humidity. They watched her as she sobbed and made strange, quiet sounds, then became still. Cobb's beer was half empty, and it was not cold anymore. He threw it at the girl. It hit her in the stomach, splashing white foam, and rolled off in the dirt near some other cans, all of which had originated from the same cooler. For 2 six-packs now they had thrown their half-empty cans at her and laughed. Willard had trouble with the target, but Cobb was fairly accurate. They were not ones to waste beer, but the heavier cans could be felt better, and it was great fun to watch the foam shoot everywhere. The warm beer mixed with the dark blood and ran down her face and neck into a puddle behind her head. She did not move. Willard asked Cobb if he thought she was dead. Cobb opened another beer and explained that she was not dead because niggers generally could not be killed by kicking and beating and raping. It took much more, something like a knife or a gun or a rope to dispose of a nigger. Although he had never taken part in such a killing, he had lived with a bunch of niggers in prison and knew all about them. They were always killing each other, and they always used a weapon of some sort. Those who were just beaten and raped never died. Some of the whites were beaten and raped, and some of them died, but none of the niggers. Their heads were harder. Willard seemed satisfied. Willard asked what he planned to do now that they were through with her. Cobb sucked on his joint, chased it with beer, and said he wasn't through. He bounced from the tailgate and staggered across the small clearing to where she was tied. He cursed her and screamed at her to wake up. Then he poured cold beer in her face, laughing like a crazy man. She watched him as he walked around the tree on her right side, and she stared at him as he stared between her legs. When he lowered his pants, she turned to the left and closed her eyes. He was hurting her again. She looked out through the woods and saw something, a man running wildly through the vines and underbrush. It was her daddy, yelling and pointing at her and coming desperately to save her. She cried out for him, and he disappeared. She fell asleep. When she awoke, one of the men was lying under the tailgate, the other under a tree. They were asleep. Her arms and legs were numb. The blood and beer and urine had mixed with the dirt underneath her to form a sticky paste that glued her small body to the ground and crackled when she moved and wiggled. Escape, she thought, but her mightiest efforts moved her only a few inches to the right. Her feet were tied so high her buttocks barely touched the ground. Her legs and arms were so deadened they refused to move. She searched the woods for her daddy and quietly called his name. She waited, then slept again. When she awoke the second time, they were up and moving around. The tall one staggered to her with a small knife. He grabbed her left ankle and sawed furiously on the rope until it gave way. Then he freed the right leg, and she curled into a fetal position with her back to them. Cobb strung a length of quarter-inch ski rope over a limb and tied a loop in one end with a slip knot. He grabbed her and put the noose around her head, then walked across the clearing with the other end of the rope and sat on the tailgate, where Willard was smoking a fresh joint and grinning at Cobb for what he was about to do. Cobb pulled the rope tight, then gave a vicious yank, bouncing the little nude body along the ground and stopping it directly under the limb. She gagged and coughed, so he kindly loosened the rope to spare her a few more minutes. He tied the rope to the bumper and opened another beer. They sat on the tailgate drinking, smoking, and staring at her. They had been at the lake most of the day, where Cobb had a friend with a boat and some extra girls who were supposed to be easy but turned out to be untouchable. Cobb had been generous with his drugs and beer, but the girls did not reciprocate. Frustrated, they left the lake and were driving to no place in particular when they happened across the girl. She was walking along a gravel road with a sack of groceries when Willard nailed her in the back of the head with a beer can. "You gonna do it?" asked Willard, his eyes red and glazed. Cobb hesitated. "Nah, I'll let you do it. It was your idea." Willard took a drag on his joint, then spit and said, "Wasn't my idea. You're the expert on killing niggers. Do it." Cobb untied the rope from the bumper and pulled it tight. It peeled bark from the limb and sprinkled fine bits of elm around the girl, who was watching them carefully now. She coughed. Suddenly she heard something, like a car with loud pipes. The two men turned quickly and looked down the dirt road to the highway in the distance. They cursed and scrambled around, one slamming the tailgate and the other running toward her. He tripped and landed near her. They cursed each other while they grabbed her, removed the rope from her neck, dragged it to the pickup, and threw her over the tailgate into the bed of the truck. Cobb slapped her and threatened to kill her if she did not lie still and keep quiet. He said he would take her home if she stayed down and did as told. Otherwise, they would kill her. They slammed the doors and sped onto the dirt road. She was going home. She passed out. Cobb and Willard waved at the Firebird with the loud pipes as it passed them on the narrow dirt road. Willard checked the back to make sure the little nigger was lying down. Cobb turned onto the highway and raced away. "What now?" Willard asked nervously. "Don't know," Cobb answered nervously. "But we gotta do something fast before she gets blood all over my truck. Look at her back there. She's bleeding all over the place." Willard thought for a minute while he finished a beer. "Let's throw her off a bridge," he said proudly. "Good idea. Damn good idea." Cobb slammed on the brakes. "Give me a beer," he ordered Willard, who stumbled out of the truck and fetched 2 beers from the back. "She's even got blood on the cooler," he reported as they raced off again. Gwen Haley sensed something horrible. Normally she would have sent one of the 3 boys to the store, but they were being punished by their father and had been sentenced to weed pulling in the garden. Tanya had been to the store before by herself. It was only a mile away, and had proven reliable. But after 2 hours, Gwen sent the boys to look for their little sister. They figured she was down at the Pounders' house playing with the many Pounders' kids, or maybe she had ventured past the store to visit her best friend, Bessie Pearson. Mr. Bates at the store said she had come and gone an hour earlier. Jarvis, the middle boy, found a sack of groceries beside the road. Gwen called her husband at the paper mill, then loaded Carl Lee Jr. into the car and began driving the gravel roads around the store. They drove to a settlement of ancient shotgun houses on Graham Plantation to check with an aunt. They stopped at Broadway's store a mile from Bates' grocery and were told by a group of old black men that she had not been seen. They crisscrossed the gravel roads and dusty field roads for 3 square miles around their house. Cobb could not find a bridge unoccupied by niggers with fishing poles.
Homework. Watch this lesson again. Pause for each language point. Write down in your notebook the English and then your first language on the opposite page. Now write a usage example of your own. The door handle was old and broke off in my hand as I tried to open it. Do this for all usages of the word hand. Watch this lesson as many times as you can over the next week until you feel confident that you understand and can remember at least 80% of the language taught. Thank you very much for watching the English of Life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. Without donations from my students, I will not be able to continue making lessons. A $2 donation a month from you can make all the difference. So please be kind to your teacher and give an apple a month to show your appreciation. I will be holding a monthly question and answer session for all patrons. For $5 a month, you will be asked to get involved with the creation of lessons by submitting lesson requests and creative ideas. For $10 a month, I will do a lesson in your honor on any topic you choose once a year and all previous rewards. At $25 a month tier, you will gain access to my Patreon-only content, the Supernatural English Study Method. These powerful 1-hour weekly lessons are extremely effective in improving your English fast. Trust me, you don't want to miss them. For a limited number of students, I am offering some of my precious time. For $100 a month, I will Skype with you for 1 hour. We can have a lesson, discuss your English learning needs, or simply chat. It's entirely your hour. Thanks again, and see you tomorrow for more The English of Life.